So, hi there everyone. So, in this lesson, we are going to discuss the history of journalism in the Philippines, part 2, but with a specificity on particular people and events in the past, especially during Spanish occupation in the Philippines. So, this particular lecture will just have a walkthrough. Again, walkthrough. I love the walkthrough. I mean, we don't really have to memorize everything or become familiar with everything, but you know, at least we have a knowledge of all of this. So, in the early years, we have to go back during the Spanish occupation. So, we know already that before we've been using leaves, we've been using stones, and we've been using, some stuffs where to write our paper. Are they considered newspapers? Long before, they were not considered newspapers, the ones that we have. And I think even the relics that we have before, the ones that are in the National Museum where Baybayin is written. It's not considered a newspaper, but I think it's a legal tender. I think it's a business agreement or transaction written during the 14th or 13th century. So, when the journalism started in the Philippines, some people would say that it started in when, what time? Well, in this year, 1637. And we have associated journalism because we say it's publishing, it's printing to Tomas Pinpin. So, Tomas Pinpin is born in Abukay, Bataan. He is actually an apprentice in a print shop owned by a Spanish friar, isang pare. So, he's not actually a member of the Principales, hindi siya tinatawag na doon. But I think he has a Chinese roots. So, ayun. So, he was an apprentice. But from being an apprentice, he succeeded into having his own print shop by himself. And what's actually nice with him is that he wrote the first ever book on how to learn Spanish. So sinulat niya yung libro na Pag-aaral para sa wikang Kastila ng mga Tagalog. I think that's how it's titled. So yun. So we associate journalism or the father of modern printing to Tomas Pinpin. Don't forget about that. And he's really good. Okay? So Pinpin come up with what we call flying sheets. Ano ba tong flying sheet? Syempre alam nyo na yan. Tinatawag natin ito na flyers. Wrong spelling. We call it flyers. It's actually also same as leaflet, right? Flyers, mga yan. Parang one-page thing or parang tinatawag natin ito na anunsyo or aviso al público. Like message to the public, like that, or notice to the public. So it is known as the town crier. Like for example, when we have to tell something to the public, so we have to use flying sheets, and that is 1799. And over the years, when he has his own print shop in Manila, he was able to prepare more or print more books for the friars and publish books by himself as well. So yeah, the first actual newspaper occurred in 1811, and its title is, or name, the name of the newspaper is Del Superior Gobierno, launched by Governor Fernandez del Porgueras. And in 1846, we have a first daily newspaper called La Esperanza. It's 1846. So yeah, why is it that we can trace back our history of journalism in the Spanish period? Well, basically, they were the ones who had been, giving us a sense of nationhood. They were trying to train us before, and they were trying to educate us or trying to, trying to civilize us. And that is why print is strongly associated with the Spanish occupation. Alright, so in 1847, a year after, we have La Estrella. It's like the star. You could remember the Philippine Star, right? So it's actually associated with that one. Or Sunday Punch, mga Star News, mga ganyan. So yeah, so we have all of these newspapers that had been published in the 18th century. And then also in 1848, we have Diario de Manila. It was renamed as Bulletin Oficial de Filipinas. Okay, and it's under by circulation in 1848 until 1860, when it was seized by circulation by the royal order. When we say royal order, the directive to stop the publication of Diario de Manila was from Spain, right? Because we're a colony, and so decrees are actually coming from Madrid back to the Philippines. Right. So in 1862, a Tagalog publisher, Mariano Sevilla, founded El Católico Filipino. So, sabi na siguro yung yung nilalaman nito, siguro hindi naman puro religious, no? But probably abiso para publiko, or notices for the public as well. So ganun din yun. It's serving the public. So naaalala nyo yung public service? Right, it's greatly associated in journalism. Right, pa tayo magsulat? Right, so that's how it goes. Okay, so La Opinion was born in 1887. It was the first paper to defy the friars and for the outsource of the religious amalgamation. Okay, big word, amalgamation. Amalgamation is the combination of religion or religious sector and politics to govern the people or to assert their power. Okay, so this is very notable because in 1887, we had been, giving like a newsbeat feature, and we had been doing like probably an editorial, or yeah, when we say editorial, we try to comment on something that happens in the public, happens in the school editorial page, right? And it's directly written by the editor. So it is noteworthy because it was the first to defy the friars. So ayaw naman nating maging rebelyoso. But yeah, I think it's the turnabout of events. We try to figure out that we need to have a sense of nationalism and sense of independence from Spain. Yeah. So, yan yung turnabout ng mga bagay-bagay. And during the Revolution, our mouthpiece had become the La Solidaridad by Marcelo H. del Pilar and the Principales, and of course the Ilustrados. Okay, why is this one associated with history? Well, we have to trace back what happened in the past. Yun lang yun. Okay, so in February 1889, La Solidaridad came out as the mouthpiece of the revolution. So remember that these Ilustrados studied in Madrid, studied in Spain, like what I am doing, but of course I'm not an Ilustrado. Yeah, and then from Spain, naibabalita sa kanila yung mga nangyayari sa bansa, and then they have to write it. And then, meron silang mga counterparts sa Pilipinas who will be doing the publication and dissemination of public information to the public. So, first, it operated with its policies to work peacefully for social and economic reforms and expose real plight of the Philippines and to champion liberalism and democracy. Well, when you look at the ideals of the La Solidaridad, it's extremely anchored on nationalism and sense of democracy, but it doesn't also imply a revolution or a total a fight against the Spaniards, but in a sense it is trying to make peaceful resolutions for social and economic reforms and just expose the bad deeds of the guys in the Philippines, which are not directly implicated by the royal decrees or by Spain. Hindi naman siya sa ganun, no? So okay, so the first paper was actually the staffers were like Jose Rizal, Bigaten, di ba? Marcelo H. del Pilar, Mariano Ponce, Andres Bonifacio, P. Valenzuela, Graciano Lopez Haina. I think Graciano Lopez Haina really writes well. Magaling siyang magsulat. First we know Rizal, but we will also have to look into the other Filipinos who could write, I think. Let me just change my color. Probably red is better. Yeah, this one. Graciano Lopez Haina. I want to highlight him because he's really good. Okay, in January 1, 1896, we have the Ang Kalayaan, the freedom or liberty. This was owned by the Katipuneros. So remember, the medium of instruction now or the language used is Tagalog. It was edited by Pio Valenzuela, Emilio Jacinto, and Andres Bonifacio. See, Andres Bonifacio, as we know before, we say that he's not a college graduate, he's uneducated. But if we look into a trace or study of Andres Bonifacio, we could say that he's quite literate and he knows what he's doing and he can write, right? He even wrote poems, no? So yeah, that's one thing. Ang Kalayaan, 1896. Okay, let's remember. Let's go back in which one is the first to defy the friars? La Opinion, 1897. 1889, La Solidaridad. And then in January 1st, 1896 is ang kalayaan. Over the years, we have made tremendous impacts, and we have a stronger clamor for independence. So in September 3 or 3rd, 1898, we have La Independencia, founded by your General Antonio Luna and Fernando Maria Guerrero. Yeah, so and one of the editors or staffs here is actually Epifanio de los Santos. Who's Epifanio de los Santos? Actually, sa kanya nakapangalan yung EDSA, di ba? Epifanio de los Santos Avenue. Kaya tinawag siya na EDSA. Okay, Epifanio de los Santos is a writer, also I think he's also an assemblyman, yeah, as far as I remember. So, let's move forward. American colonial period, it was led by Manila Times by Thomas Gowan. So, nag-English na tayo, no? But I think English and Spanish coexisted in the early 1900s and pre-war era. Mayroon pa naman nagsasalita ng Espanyol noon. So Alejandro Roses, these figures were the ones written in history. They are he is known as the father of modern journalism. Okay? Kung si Thomas Pinpin, kilala natin na father of print, si Alejandro Roses naman is known as the father of modern journalism. He acquired Manila Times in 1927. And then eventually it was passed on to Alejandro Rosas Sr. and then put up into magazines like Cult Graphic. Okay, over the years, meron pa tayong mga development. We have the Manila Daily Bulletin that's established in February 1st, 1900s. And it's the oldest existing newspaper. Diba? Kalain mo yun? 1900s. Diba, 200 years old na siya ngayon. More than. Senator Vicente Madrigal, owner of the Herald, put up his own publication chain called BMHM, comprised of the Spanish Daily, El Debate, Weekly, Monday Post, Herald Mabuhay, and Filipino Daily. Okay, this is now the remnants of, not really remnants, this is where we can trace the history of the broadsheets that we know today. Manila Bulletin, mga Philippine Daily Inquirer, mga ganyan. And of course, during his Japanese occupation, I think we have, again, what we call censorship. Ano na yung censorship? Censorship. What's censorship? Censorship is when the government impose limitations or actually bar, writings that could defy their government, They limit the press freedom. That's censorship. Activity was left to operate, however, it was controlled and functioned solely for the benefit of the Japanese state. So, na-censor ang ating journalism practice. The only papers that existed those times with that activity, Liwayway, na medyo nag-exist pa rin ngayon. Marami dyang mga nasulat yung ating mga national artists under Liwayway. Manila Shinbun. Shinbun, ang tawag namin dito is newspaper. Ang translation niyan ay newspaper. Shinseki, Bicol Herald, and Davao Nichi Nichi. So there is why do we have these newspapers in Davao, in Bicol? Because there is actually a diaspora of Japanese who are living in Japan, in Davao City. Maraming mga Japanese doon, way back pa ng Japanese occupation. Okay, post-liberation, nung nakalaya na tayo mula sa impluensya ng mga Amerika. So ano nangyari dito? Okay, we have established in 1947 the Manila Bulletin, what it is now. So, ayan na yan, hanggang sa Manila Times re-established by the Roses family. Okay, during the martial law, alam na natin, so nahati-hati talaga yung history ng Pilipinas sa mga ganong segments, no? Martial law, meron ulit censorship, sinensor yung mga, kung if you're against the government, you should not say something or bad to the government. And yeah, that's what happens. And sabi nila, Marcus Cruni, yung mga alipores niya, Cruni. Again, cronies, ialagay natin ng IES, were those who were assigned to own, media, because media controls the public mindset, mga ganyan. Kaya napaka-importante sa kanila na makontrol kung anong nalalaman ng mga newspaper journalism. Because it's a powerful tool talaga to control the mindset of the public. So yeah, so that's what happened. So this one is actually Romualdez, the brother of the First Lady. They were the ones who controlled this one. So parang nakikita nila na maganda lahat yung binabalita. But some journalists went what we call um, they went underground. Paano ba tinawag natin na underground? Pag sinabi natin na underground publication, nagtago sila and they're still publishing, printing, pero patago, secretly. At paano yung dissemination or publication ng mga to? Siyempre, dinadaan din natin sa palihim, di ba? In secrecy. Pero at least, dumadaan pa rin ito. Pero pag nahuli ka, patay kang bata ka. Ganun yun. Yeah. So, nag-underground yung ating mga tunay na mga journalists. Yung iba ay, ano pa ba? Yung iba ay persecuted, during the martial law era. And contemporary times, now we have this. Sana magbasa din naman kayo. Actually, broadsheets are good IMs. So magagamit nyo talaga to, matuturo sa mga bata. So kapag naging campus advisor kayo, please, check, read, and you try to use all of these journals kasi pwede silang maging sample talaga kung paano magsulat ng mga news. And definitely, papagawa ko sa inyo ito, magsusulat tayo ng mga news, magre-write tayo ng mga balita. Bibigyan ko kayo ng leads and then you will write news. You will have to by in the following weeks. Bilisan na lang natin mag-discuss, no? So sana manood kayo ng mga videos na to kasi the next episodes will be on news writing. Magsusulat na tayo. Okay, so in 1986, freedom of the Constitution and the republics and ganyan. When we had the Constitution now, we have Proclamation number 3. We have mandated the public to the government made a policy to protect the basic rights of the public and to make things better in a way. So what are the provisions or legal mandates and provisions that afford or that protects freedom of the press? Ito na yung mga yun, nasa Bill of Rights natin, ang 1987 Constitution. Nandiyan na, Section 1, Section 2, right of a person to own, ownership, ano pa ba, the right of the person for equal protection of the law, and something else. The privacy of communication and correspondence, ano pa ba, yung mga yan. Dito naka-anchor lahat yung mga legal mandates ng journalism practice natin at saka yung freedom of the press. The right of the public, including those employed in the public and private sectors, unions, associations, or to gather or for assembly. Diba? Yung mga yan na. So, maganda naman talaga yung ating 1987 Constitution kasi nag-proliferate from then yung ating journalism practice sa Pilipinas. At if you try to look back, sabi ko nga kanina, since our clamor for independence in La Solidaridad, diba? We have a strong sense of nationalism. And until now, we have a very patriotic journalist, and not to name, or probably I should name the people who had been putting heart and dedicated hard work for public service. I think Cara David, Jessica Soho, ano pa ba, Ato Marolio. We have the veteran ones. Walang takot yan, i-expose talaga kung anong dapat. So while some people would say that medyo nabibili daw ang media, we still have to believe that transparency and ethical practice in journalism is observed by Filipino journalists. That's it for today. That's all I can say. So please listen to this lecture and we'll see you in class.